known as like the godfather of MMA in Ireland. Is that what they say?
Yeah, just because I'm old.
Is it godfather or grandfather?
Maybe. Sometimes I feel like the grandfather, but I guess I was one of the first to do it, so
great.
I got that name.
Okay.
Kind of stuck.
So talk to me a bit about how you came into contact with Gunnar Nelson. It's kind of hard to draw the lines, I think, just on Iceland and Ireland, and then you were all together as a team, and it seems like the bond's really tight. How did that come to be?
Yeah, well, my coach, Matt Thornton of Straight Blast Gym International, he actually was brought there for a seminar about 9 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, and I think he went 2 years in a row. And then he wasn't able to go the next year, and he got in touch with me and was like, you should go to Iceland, it's an incredible place. And he wasn't able to go, so I filled in for him. I went along, and that was 7 years ago. Gunni was 16 at the time, and but I actually initially hit it off with Arni, another fighter from there.
Okay.
And so I did a seminar there, and then Arni moved to Ireland for almost a year. And he started fighting under me, and then Gunnar followed about a year later, and he stayed with me for roughly a year or whatever, and then I've been back there a bunch of times, and they've been with me a bunch of times, and yeah, we just hit it off, and I'm very close with Gunnar's father as well. I consider him a good friend, and yeah, so I guess that's...
Okay, so that's how it came out. So Arni was the
first guy.
The first guy, okay.
He was my initial contact. Like, I remember Gunnar at my seminar, but he was 16, and he was still in school, and he was, you know, like just a boy, you know. And I remember thinking, oh, he's pretty good, but Arni was a little bit older, and he was a Muay Thai champion, and he was very serious about wanting to train, so I probably was a little bit more focused on him. And yeah, I still am. Me and Arni are super close. He's fighting next week in Ireland. So Gunnar and Holly, we're all going from here to Dublin, and then Arni is joining us there on Tuesday, and then we fight on Saturday in Dublin.
Okay, so the training aligned nice with he's defending his title next week.
It was perfect, and Cathal Pendred is fighting March 9th for the Cage Warriors World title. So he's been in Iceland with me for the last 6-7 weeks. So the last 6-7 weeks we've had like Gunnar, Cathal, Arni, and another one of my welterweights, Philip Mulpeter, who's very, very good. And then a bunch of other guys that you wouldn't know the names yet, but you will pretty soon. And so it was actually a really good welterweight training camp.
Okay.
So it just worked out really well.
Great, great. I think you guys your team's kind of being put on the map. I think Cathil's the guy that in the Bruno Carvalho fight showed a lot of technique and heart, and it's kind of like, it seems you guys have a common thread of really being good with submissions, and your defense is kind of on a level that is a bit tricky with all these other fighters battling some of the guys on your team. With Arni, where do you see his next steps? I know he's defending his title next week, but talk about his development of a fighter. It seems like he's kind of rejuvenated after his last bout.
Yeah, well, he had a very bad injury about almost 4 years ago now. 5 years ago actually, because it was in my previous gym, where he basically had a knee injury that the surgeon said he would normally only see this in a bad car accident. He was 18 months recovering. He did everything. Whatever you can do in the knee, he did. So he had a lot of I think at least 2 reconstructive surgeries, and like I said, 18 months of rehab. 18 months of rehab to get back to training, and then another 18 months of training to get back to where he was. So I mean, practically 3 years was out over a single incident in a training session. It was actually, I remember, it was his last training session before fighting Gene Silva. Bit of a blast in the past. It was for the Cage Rage title. So I'll show you how long ago it was. It was a good while ago, and we were doing. Well, anyway, he got injured, but then I guess during that period was when Gunnar kind of, I guess the focus kind of shifted up to him, and he started coming up to the ranks, and you know, it was obviously difficult for Arni. You know, it's no mystery to say you would deal with a lot of negative thoughts in your head. But then seeing Gunni's success has kind of spurred him on, and you know, he was a big help for Gunni as well. And the last year or two, he's kind of getting back in the limelight, and he has this good fight now next week, and another 2 fights I think with Cage Contender. And then who knows? I mean, if he wins next week and gets 2 good wins with Cage Contender, maybe he's joining his Viking brother in UFC. You know, so that's the plan. Great,
great. Okay, now switching, I guess, to this weekend's fight. George Santiago, a tough opponent. When talking to Gunner, it kind of seems like opponents really don't matter to him. He kind of has a mindset and does his own thing. Are you the one that watches tape and gives like specific instruction, or how does that like filter down to Gunner, or how does it work with him?
I think we do it as a team. Like Conor McGregor he's debuting in April in Sweden. We all have a similar approach, and I don't know where maybe you start with me or whoever started with, but I think you can get a little bit caught up in what your opponent can do, and people make these strategies and game plans to avoid what their opponent does. But I tend to just focus on what we can do, because if you're an expert in a certain area, well, that's where the fight's going. You're going to want to bring the fight there, no matter who you're against. That's your expert areas. That's where you want to go. Yep. So we just try and fight where we're most comfortable, and we're always aware as well that like for Gunni's last fight, and it doesn't normally happen on big shows like this, but certainly for the smaller shows, I tell my guys, your opponent might change with 2 days' notice. The one thing that doesn't change is you. So we can always improve ourselves. So I say, like, regardless of who it is, you're going to step in the cage. There'll be someone on the other side. It doesn't really matter what his face is. He'll be your weight. He'll be your opponent, and it'll be how you trained. That's going to decide who's going to win. So all of the training we talk about, like, I really would be honest in saying that I don't think me and Gunni spoke once about Santiago or any opponent in the last 7-8 weeks. It just doesn't come up. I never watched video with him. I watched I like to watch maybe a few minutes of somebody just to get a feel, and then I stop watching, because you can get caught up. You can be too much. Oh, he always does this. It's like, no, you don't know this. And also, I look at my own fighters. If you were to study Cathal Pendrell or something from a year ago and strategize against him, you're going to fight a different guy this time, and maybe your opponent is going to have a new style. Maybe he prefers striking now, or maybe he changes stance. You're not going to step in the cage and look at me and go, he's doing the wrong stance. Switch stance, put this hand. So don't get too caught up on who you're fighting. Just focus on yourself.
Great. And that seems to be the best advice with both of Gunner's fights. I've had multiple opponents, so maybe that's this mindset has been real advantageous for this difficult situation.
It was kind of like you said, when I was fighting like about 5,000 years ago, there was no YouTube, or you just showed up and it was that guy over there, and you kind of looked to see, has he got an ear, or is he wearing Thai boxing shorts, or there was no idea, like, until the bell went. So you just sort of had to stop thinking that way. Just had to go in and say, well, I've done what I can. I might go in and win, I might go in and lose, but I prepared as best I could, and what else can I do?
Right. Well, thanks for your time. It was a pleasure meeting with you, and thanks for the insights, and good luck on Saturday.
All right. Cheers. Thanks very much.